Hey, Chris.
Hey, Jim. How you doing?
Very good, thanks. Great to be here as always.
All right, we're going to wait. We got a minute or so before we start here.
That was our little soft warm-up. Great. No, it's fantastic to be back here on the Terra Virtua platform for drop number 3.
Yeah, indeed.
I think we're live. I think we're on. It's on like Donkey Kong.
It is now 3:59 British Standard Time, British Summer Time, I should say. And I am here in the Terra Virtua virtual studio with Mr. Jim Wheat himself from $Sand Art. How you doing, Jim?
Hey, Chris. Great, thank you. Really, really good to be back here for the 3rd drop. I'm so excited about this.
Good stuff. Yeah, me too. Well, we've got today's a very special day, Jim, and for everyone watching, Jim Wheat is one of our curated artists. We've been working with him for a long time and on his Heroes and Villains collection. So many of you will know Jim already. And if you follow Terra Virtua, you'll know that today is a very special day because we're dropping 6 new pieces of artwork from Heroes and Villains. And over the next hour, right before they drop, we're hoping to go a little bit more into the context around the artwork and the motivation behind Heroes and Villains. Isn't that right, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. Each one has a story and it has a nice thread. So I'm absolutely delighted to share some of the untold behind the scenes stuff before these NFTs become available within the hour. So yeah, it's a real good opportunity to do this now.
Good stuff. So I think for the next well, why don't we do this? So everyone watching, we welcome you to add comments and questions into the chat, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, and I'll pick them up when we get a free second. I'll put them in front of you, Jim, and you can answer them as you see fit, just off the top of your head.
That's great. Hi, Elias, by the way. Thanks for dropping by, mate. Nice to hear from you and see you again.
So for all of you watching, this is unscripted. We're gonna hopefully bounce off each other and see how that goes.
Always the best way. Always the best way. Let's go with the flow, speak from the heart, and talk about the dollars and art. There you go. It's an NFT poem, Chris, dropped right now.
Okay.
Right.
So I think, Jim, why don't you start by giving us a little background about Heroes and Villains as a collection? Where did the motivation come from? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, it was largely born out of several years of frustration, exploring the dichotomy of society in general, particularly in the Middle East, in Dubai. I was spending a bit of time in London, a bit of time on the west coast of America. And I was kind of in social circles, launching the art, and I really wanted to do an exhibition that featured 10 very well-known people that had signed a dollar bill with me, and 10 unsung foot soldiers that make Dubai tick. So the contrasts of Heroes and Villains really explores both sides of the coin. And from a corporate background, I was taking one side of the coin for granted, and the other side of the coin, I was just chasing relentlessly all the time. So it was my own experience in the corporate world and my own experience several years later as an artist that had lost all that corporate stuff and was surviving by the seat of my pants. So the Heroes and Villains was first showcased at DIFC, the Dubai International Financial Centre, at the Gate District there in Dubai. That was the Rera Gallery. We got Mercedes-Benz in to sponsor. We got it was a real fly on the wall to be seen at event. But in that exhibition was 10 famous and 10 unsung foot soldiers. And my dream was that, you know, both imposters would be treated the same, like success and failure. But who's to say who the hero is and who's to say who the villain is? So I wanted to throw that back in the face of society, back what's approaching over 6.5 years ago now. And the great thing is with Heroes and Villains is it's evolved. So some of these 6 dropped today. The 3 are from the original show that are available for the very first time in NFT format. And 3 others are from the pop art disruptive genre that have never been seen before. So it gives me great pleasure to share some of the double sides of this coin and how we can apply that to everyday life in things that we take for granted and things that we aspire to be in a society where is being, divided even more and more and more at a constant rate of knots, leading to mental health issues that, I've been lucky enough to get through myself over the years, and art became a great salvation. It's a real cry for help, if the truth be told. Heroes and Villains for me was a real cry for help at the time, and it's become more and more relevant year on year. And with the advent of NFTs and the ultimate showcase platform within Terra Virtua, really giving this work a voice, and most importantly, it can be shared exclusively with the TV community here, with the heart on the sleeve, which was always the intention,
Yeah. I think you touched on some really interesting things there, Jim. What I wanted to go back to is you mentioned the unsung foot soldiers, and this is a phrase that you bring up quite a lot. And could you tell us a little bit more about that particular aspect of Heroes and Villains?
Yeah, I mean, from a personal standpoint, from my construction background, it was very much, the corporate haves and the strained labor that were taken for granted, that were earning so little money, but in relative terms from where they are in a certain part of the world, it was a lot of money. And that dichotomy and that imbalance always bothered me. It always bothered me that who's to say, for example, that the billionaire Richard Branson is bold enough to create thousands of jobs for people all over the world and flies to space and look at the next quest for man's technology, man's, women's, and everybody else's technology, right? But who's to say who the hero and villain is in the case of Branson and the Virgin Galactics? And you'll notice here what we've worked into is it's based on dollars. A lot of businesses are, a lot of money is, a lot of life is. But look at those crypto eyes and the rockets headed to the moon. So what we've done is brought this disruptive to life, about life's aspirations and where we aim for in life. But it doesn't mean because you're not the next Richard Branson or even Elon Musk that you've failed in that quest. It depends what type of person you become to get there, how you treat other people, and is it for the greater good? So the unsung foot soldiers could be for anyone from any walk of life that isn't necessarily judged or praised or lauded. But who's the hero? Who's the villain? And we keep coming back to this. And I think my guilt at the time was having corporate money that I took for granted, having the open expense account that I took for granted, and almost having this inbred fear that I didn't want to become this arrogant, I don't need you anymore. But some of the people I was associating with just had that one thing in mind. And if it was a millionaire, you get to a billionaire. Billionaire, I want 2 billion. And where does it stop? So the ultimate bottom line of dollar, sand, and art is that money is energy. And the sand aspect, every grain of sand looks the same, but close up and unique, every grain of sand is different. So each and every one of us can be authentic. Hopefully can earn money from that through putting energy into things we believe in. And that's really what I was trying to get at in the Heroes and Villains. But who's Jim Wheaton? Who's dollars and art? So one of the quickest and most effective ways to do that, even 6, 7, 8 years ago, was by celebrity association and getting them to sign various dollar bills and attend various events alongside them, which then opened up the Unsung Foot Soldiers artwork to be seen in the same gallery walls like you're going to see today in the virtual drop. Moving on very, very nicely to Iron Man at the car wash.
Yeah, so Jim, this one is, as you were saying, these unsung foot soldiers are everyday people that represent a kind of a contrast to the power and wealth of the heroes of the of the celebrities and famous people. Why don't you talk a little bit more about this one in particular? I love this. This is one of the artworks dropping today. It's called Iron Man at the Car Wash.
Yeah, this really hit me because the way it works in Dubai is you pull your car up to the petrol station, you don't get out your car, someone comes and fills your gas tank, petrol tank with petrol. In the US, in England, in Europe, you get out and you do it yourself. So there's none of that, but you're creating jobs for other people. Now, one guy, it was an August day in 2014, a year before Heroes and Villains. His name was Neka from Nepal, and he was pouring with sweat. We're talking approaching 50 degrees C in Dubai. It never gets above 50, of course. And the humidity must have been 95%. This guy is on the forecourt for hours and he's dripping in sweat. So I pay my 120 dirhams, which is about, I don't know, on an average day, £25 sterling, 40 US dollars to fill the big gas guzzling 4x4 that I drew up in, right? And he fills the tank and I gave him the 150 and said, keep the change, 30 dirhams, £5.5, $8. The guy was in tears with gratitude. He said, sir, you're the first person to thank me all day. I said, how do you manage in this? He said, can I clean your car, sir? Let me clean the windows. Yeah. So you'll see on this artwork, it says, check the windows, dollar gas. And it was from an album cover from my late father's record collection, Wipe the Windows, dollar gas. Here's the weird thing with this piece. Not only has it got the vinyl record on in original 78 RPM form, it's also got the reference to running out of gas. Well, what do we do in crypto when you want to transfer some Ethereum? Have you got enough gas in the tank? Not enough gas, mate. You need to buy more crypto. Not enough gas. So what's happened unwittingly 5 years ago when I launched Iron Man at the Car Wash, this was to honor all the petrol station service attendants that have to have superhero abilities like a mask of iron, not only to survive the conditions, but the fumes that are coming out, the fact that they're trying to earn extra money by offering to change your oil, offering to clean your windscreen. So this dollar thing for me was a nod to them to say, fair play to you, Iron Man at the Car Wash. And this was an open frame piece of art that I showed in 2015 alongside the celebrity artwork. And this piece was largely ignored. There's a Marvel comment to it. There's the face of Iron Man on the original, but the story was largely ignored because it's not celebrity. Who's the hero? Who's the villain? But my hero that day, when I sat on my corporate bottom in the corporate Jeep and I was breaking out to be an artist, then I was shown the door anyway around that time because I was an artist and it was a conflict of interest. Best thing that happened to me, corporate deals gone. Earn your own living, sunshine. But in relative terms to these guys at the forecourt, Iron Man at the Car Wash, I still feel clearly very passionate about this piece of art.
When you say it was a conflict of interest, that's quite interesting. What actually happened there? Someone booted you out?
Well, I was on the commercial side of it. I went from construction without work for 2 years with a huge debt against my name in Dubai. And then I managed to get something at one of the golf courses looking after corporate clients. And that was my link into looking after celebrities on the golf course to get them to sign the dollars. When I did my first Dubai dollar project in 2013, the money collection, 28 artworks dropped. And I'm the guy that works at the golf club in the day. And I was an artist at night, literally painting what I felt on my studio walls, my apartment walls that became my studio. And everything I painted on those walls became a reality in an exhibition. But because the media got hold of it, it was at a place called Media One Hotel in Dubai. CNN got hold of it. Russia Today got hold of it. Even Sky News had us on a little 10-second slot about art exhibitions. So I became bigger than my role at the golf club. And rightly so, the owner of the golf club went, mate, you're great and you're a lovely lad, but something's got to give. There's great things that Jim does, and there's some not so good things that Jim does. You're employed by the golf club. So that was me showing the corporate door back in 2013 to 14 when I worked my way out. And then it was leveraging the heroes and villains. So that was like the heroes and villains for me. And I'm glad you dug deeper because it's not something I've talked about since the day I left. But that heroes and villains had to happen for me and it took me 3 exhibitions to build up to have the confidence to my 4th collection.
I guess in a way you are the hero and the villain at the same time yourself.
Oh mate, aren't we all though? I mean, on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. I mean, it's all relative depending on our values. But in Dubai, I felt the villain in corporate, and then when I got rid of all the ties and pretty much felt like I was taking the world on me versus everybody else. And I hope the art world accept me, whoever the art world are. Still don't know to this day who the art world are. But I'm far more at home talking to NFT collectors here at Terra Virtua that can link into the stories and wonder why we've taken this move to make physical assets available in digital form. And Iron Man at the car wash, that was a really well-timed one you put up. But what I didn't expect today, it really hit a nerve, and it took me back to feeling that guilt that I felt at that forecourt. And maybe that guy's saved up enough money to get back to Nepal and look after his family. But that's why and when I left him the money, he said, "Sir, God bless this. This will go to my children, and thank you." It wasn't even like, "Thanks, mate. I'll get myself a pizza tonight." He was there to earn money for his family in Nepal and send home what he could, and that could be his mother or his kids. And that's what you've just triggered with that question. So, well pulled out, sir.
Well, I've got another great question from Peanuts Boyko.
Okay, cool.
Who would you love to do a piece on? Who's your greatest hero / villain?
Oh, are we talking alive or dead? Do I have how opens the canvas on this question? That's a brilliant question.
You choose.
From the gut, if anything goes in the art world, which it does, I'd like to do Winston Churchill, because Winston Churchill struggled bipolar. He struggled addictive personality, had a lot of black dog syndrome, had failed a lot until his time came.
What's black dog syndrome?
Suffering from very deep depression where you can barely function. So he had the black dog with him a lot, and he found solace in art and whatever he did. So I would have to say, Peanut Boyko, it's got to be Winston Churchill, because for me there's a timeless class about him, and he's an absolute split down the middle of a hero and a villain, of leading a country to war. It's great if he's on your side as a hero and you win, but he's not if you take one of your family out. So again, even an icon like that would have his moment. But I think if I could be selfish, meet him and get him to sign an old £1 note, and we do a bit of an Insta live with Winston Churchill on the beaches. I mean, you can't beat that. Even watching the Gary Oldman film with him in. So great question. I've got to answer Winston Churchill for that.
Yeah, it's a good answer. I mean, he was such a hero during the war, and then in peacetime, he was cannibalized by his enemies and his political rivals, really.
Oh, you can never win. And I think I think it's all relative on what you deem the hero and villain is. And it's not to say, even the most enlightened beings that are super self-actualized, and even the Dalai Lama says mosquitoes get a second chance, but when they bite me again, I'll fight back when I need to. That's the 14th Dalai Lama saying that, So from a philosophical and spiritual perspective, there's even a hero and villain aspect in that. And guess what? So there should be.
Good. So speaking of heroes and villains, a hero to some, a villain to others. Tell us a little bit about Lewis Hamilton here. Yeah,
this is a cracker. I have to say, I love the way not only you've done the crypto eyes and the dollar sign, so we got crypto versus dollars, and the exhaust fumes spitting out money, and the checkered flag. When's it going to end? So arguably greatest of all time, one of the F1 heroes. Arguably the day that I got to meet the man, I was definitely the villain. And I'm not sure whether I should share on the platform how I got him to sign banknotes. But it was somewhere.
Before you go there, sorry, Jim, before you go there, explain the thing about the banknotes in these pieces? Because what we're looking at here, this is one of the NFTs that Terra Virtua are dropping today.
Yeah.
And previously the work that we released as NFTs in the Terra Virtua marketplace were the more traditional textile based paints, sand.
Yeah, like Iron Man and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an example of how Heroes and Villains has evolved into more pop art print style.
Yeah.
So how do we bring the banknote thing? How does that relate to it?
Great question. So at the time I met Lewis, when I persuaded him to sign the banknotes in a room full of 250 people that I had no right to join, my open approach, because it was the end of a Q&A, a big exclusive evening with him, and I just said, great story, but can you sign some banknotes? I want to honor you in my Heroes and Villains collection. And he signed and everyone clapped and I took the banknotes away. 10 months later, in March 2015, he was not showcased in Heroes and Villains. There wasn't room of the 10 famous and the 10 unsung foot soldiers. There wasn't room to fit him in. And I always vowed that I would honor him in some way. 2017, I launched my Disruptives Foursquare pop art collection that's instantly recognizable. It's a dig at Warhol. It's a dig at the Foursquare Marilyn. But instead of just honoring the dollar separately to the icon, I've combined the two, and we do pound signs, we do football crests, we by the law of appropriation, tweak the image and play with that enough. And here we are now with Lewis, with the crypto eyes and the dollars. Now, the signed banknotes, very, very interesting. I've had questions through the community here. When are we going to see the signed banknotes as NFTs? And that's something we're under discussions at the moment because it's never been seen as an NFT. What I've done with two of the banknotes is private commissions that say, I love Lewis. I remember Scalextrics, the game, as a track. Could you do Lewis's story with the signed banknote in? And I want a table for my living room, or I want my man cave pimped up with Lewis stuff. So I've used two of them for privately commissioned huge petrol head fans of Lewis to make that as part of their legacy, like he did in the go-karting years of his team days. Never ever give up. So it's going to be interesting where these signed banknotes end, but the majority of Heroes and Villains that we see, there's signed banknotes that go with the original works. But guess what? There's nothing to stop them going as NFTs. And I'd be interested to see what the community, particularly the crypto heavy members of this community, a signed banknote versus, an XRP or a Dogecoin or a whatever it is we're onto, a BCH or ADA Cardano or Ethereum. What is it? Is that banknote, is that meaning a lot less to you? Or as an NFT banknote, is that like the last thing you want to see on? And I'm open to suggestions on that, but the majority of the notes are always kept back. And what's fantastic about the Terra Virtua marketplace is the way that this is recorded officially on the blockchain. This is a platform that's done right, with provenance, with certification. And as soon as you bought one of these, it gets relisted at least the price that you've bought it at. And lo and behold, when the 10 minted items of these gone, I've got no doubt that a secondary market will develop as Lewis's career moves on,
Yeah, and I mean, it's very interesting because the choice of Lewis and Hamilton, like, here is a guy that was, he was spotted at a very young age as a karter, early on even in his karting career by Ron Dennis of Mercedes. Yeah, and he was made to sign a contract, and it was one of the first ever of its kind. No other driver has had such a long-term investment. Like Ron Dennis literally said, we're going to take you all the way to F1. And given, and of course, that gave him a tremendous opportunity. It meant he had the financial backing to chart a course that is unobtainable for 99.99% of the rest of the population.
You're spot on, Chris. You're spot on. And it was all about that. It was all about that energy of money, and the energy of money can be wonderful, but the fear of not having enough money can be the most suffocating feeling. And Heroes and Villains was an anecdote and a metaphor for what I'd been through from hero to zero financially. Other things happened before before the golf club showed me the door, and it was bereavement and it was relationships and things were going wrong rapidly, and that brought out the hero and villain in myself as well.
Yeah. Well, that leads quite nicely into another question from Peanuts Boyko. Your art is transformational for you. Do you think it can be the same for others? Can art help people through difficult times?
Well, the reality is I hadn't done art until the difficult time. So I still struggle to draw curtains, literally. And, you know, my art memories as a kid was coming third in the Draw the Father Christmas competition as a 6-year-old, of which there are only 3 kids. But Dad said, you know, you've come third, your picture's all right, but I really struggled. So I was told at a very early age, you'll never make an artist from people in school, but he's good at maths, so he should, you know, geography, maths. So I went down the civil engineering route, got my master's degree in that, then my diploma in marketing, and was so left brain project managed that was me. But as life eroded and the barriers came down, particularly during the very darkest times when I had my Russell Crowe beautiful mind moment and stripped my apartment down and threw everything off the wall, art replaced that with this American dream that had gone wrong with the dollar sign. So I would say art can absolutely be transformational, but also can help mindfulness, can help creativity. And whether you're doodling on the back of a crossword or putting pen to paper or even doing it graphically, I really recommend that, providing you're not that caught up on what the judgment is, because some of the earlier judgments of my first exhibition in 2013 at Media One, I overheard someone say, my 5-year-old could have done that. And that to me was such a big compliment, because it showed the vulnerability and innocence behind my work that I still have to this day. All right, the sexy pop art and the sexy NFT world that makes Lewis look great, I couldn't replicate that from hand. I have great design teams that get the desire and passion behind me. But for me to get to that stage, I've had to go through that vulnerable stage that I don't really want to lose. So providing you're authentic and it means something to you, that's the main priority. And I will also advise as well, anyone looking at getting into the arts, the most difficult people in society to persuade to like your art are generally the people closest to you, that know you in your traditional way of earning money, whatever that may be. But don't worry about the approval of others. You'll be surprised what you can create. And I'd encourage you to produce, whether it's for yourself or whether it's for other people. So absolutely, if nothing else, for a male in his early 40s at the time, it was an outlet of frustration for me. Because I couldn't put my arm around my mates and say, let's go and have a pint. And they'd say, oh, you daft thing, you've lost your job. Come on, there's another job here. Have another beer, you'll be fine. So parts of society, particularly in the last 18 to 20 months, have suffered from that. And we all become, you know, these armchair warriors with barriers. And I'd encourage art as a real way to do that cathartically, to help. And authenticity is my currency, and authenticity will remain my currency, warts and all, and paint splashes and ruining t-shirts that are meant to have an overall on when I paint, and all that stuff. I haven't lost that child side of it, and I don't intend to either. So great question. But transformation, it happened to me at the darkest time, and I didn't even realize it would lead to this, you know.
There's another question, a quick pun by Badass Crypto here, who I think you're quite familiar with. If we ever meet, would you sign me a $1 bill? Be the perfect way to start my own heroes collection.
Yeah, if you sold it back to me for 1,000 and put me in 25% agent's fee, we could talk. That's a brilliant question. That is a really good question, and I'm very open to collaborations. It depends on the context of the art. And the only other time I've signed a banknote was for one of the prisons where I do mental health work, and one of the questions at the end was, can you sign that for me? And that's how I've got some of mine signed over the years. So I'd be delighted to make that possible, of course. Great question.
This is great. No, I mean, this is wonderful, Jim, because we are talking about not just the journey of your own personal journey of, you know, a rise to fame and glory and power and wealth and a fall and the catharsis that your art has allowed you to achieve. But also you're taking, you fully embrace this new wave of the future, this Web3 NFT crypto based environment. And I mean, we know very well your relationship with Terra Virtua, but what does that actually mean to you in the long term?
Well, it means the 300 or 400 paintings that I've done that are either sold or stuck on walls in the real world, they finally got the voice that I always wanted them to have. And this is still therapy for me. Talking about Iron Man at the car wash then was like, that was emotional shit for me then. That was like, and then the sort of cheeky gorilla guy that I am to get to Lewis and to get Branson to sign something and to celebrate these icons in a cheeky way with crypto eyes and dollars. I mean, it's like my whole dollar story that celebrates NFTs on the blockchain has all come to fruition. So I'm just so grateful that this platform is cementing my legacy, really, and people that are buying and collecting that I'm meeting, and I'm getting personal voice notes on Instagram, and they're saying, "Cool, your drop's just finished. I've just got all the number 10s of this, and I've got all the number 2s of that, and we're going to put it in our gallery in our private online castle, and the kids are going to love this one in 10 years." And there's a confidence in the community that are encouraging me to help humanize this space while be very open and do particularly half of this work, the 3 that you see, top left, top right, and bottom left. They were collage pieces of work that I was sticking and gluing together in 2014 with no exhibition secured, no sponsor, no venue. And I had 28 of these things taken over my apartment with me lending money to get them framed, to eventually showcase, to eventually start selling, to eventually start moving into screen printing and pop art. And this covers both. So it's like an 7, 8, 9 year wait for this, but it's all happened at the right time, in a time where I believe authenticity in the digital world is absolutely fundamental, and authenticity in the real world, whatever that is, people we meet and greet every day. If anyone watching now looks differently, the guy who's serving you at the petrol station, behind the counter, or in your car petrol, you know, just that second glance, that second look, and a bit of recognition. The basic human need is to feel recognized and appreciated. Maybe not, you know, you could move on to love, but the most difficult one to deal with is apathy and indifference. So at my exhibition, if I hadn't have overheard the guy went, "Oh, you call that art? My 5-year-old could have done that. That's music to my ears." I'd rather he said that than just walk past.
Yeah.
You know, and we put that into the NFT space that's slowly making more sense to people, and they're getting in the mood for these collectibles of both sides of the coin. And maybe Iron Man or Spider-Man will resonate, or maybe the journey to the moon in the crypto world will resonate. So we've put hooks within these pieces that celebrate the hero or the villain, and we've got Spider-Man coming up here.
Jim, no, it is. Of course, the beautiful thing about NFTs and is that they're utterly unique, and that you can trace where they've been, where they're going, and where they are at any time, at any place in the world. You know, that big, beautiful ledger that is the blockchain. NFTs are perfectly suited to it, because it means that, one, you can't forge the artworks. I mean, you can copy a digital image of it, but you can't copy the NFT itself. There's only ever going to be one,
and it's a place in history. It's a place in history with, you know,
and there is the fact that sorry, what I was going to say is it's when you talk about authenticity, You see,
Yeah.
authenticity is about being your real self, and also about being quite noble in your intentions and honest in your intentions. And the problem in the NFT space is there is a lot of cash grab.
Yeah.
Of cheap stuff being made, people jumping on the bandwagon, and here you are, an artist who really is passionate about his work and what the work represents and what the potential of the work as an NFT is.
Yeah. Yeah. And just as my phone rang, then I thought, I can't believe I didn't put my phone on silent. And
I can't believe I didn't tell you to put your phone on silent.
And but again, that's happened for a reason. There was one back in the day where I gave a presentation, a corporate seminar on the power of art for mental health. And I said, can everyone switch the phones off? And 3 minutes into my talk, my phone went off. But yeah, I think the NFT blockchain, some of my art traditional collectors, particularly in Dubai and on the West Coast of America, are like, yeah, this crypto, still don't get it. You got to watch where the money's coming. And I'm like, the blockchain's more traceable than anything else in the world. It's decentralized, but everything's traceable on that. So you're not going into a dark web here. You're actually building up digital assets. And my question normally is to them, are you spending more or less time on technology, whether you like it or not, whether it's your phone? Well, you know, I'm not bad. What about your kids or your grandkids? Oh, they're always on it. Right. Okay. So is digital assets going to be increased, or do you think they're going to fizzle out and become irrelevant in an augmented, immersible art gallery? Ah, right, I get you now. And what if those NFTs were put into games or pop concerts or pop videos, or Mr. Tyson there, and he puts it into his alternative therapies that he's investing in at the moment in Las Vegas, and it's the sucker punch. So all of these heroes and villains have a place in the NFT world. But what's ironic, like particularly with Tyson, crypto, dollar, and then we've got that, you know, hero, villain. 1 minute he's there to pulverize the person as a 19, 20-year-old in the early 1990s, late 80s, early 90s. And then next minute he's growing herbal alternatives on his farm in Las Vegas, and it's group hugs all round through the blockchain. So there's a hero and villain story within that, and how he's transformed on the lines of mental health and everything else that goes with it. And a little bird tells me he's going to be coming to the UK in October, and guess who I'm going to be meeting? So more of that another time, but all the dots are connecting nicely with these. Oh, that's a good question. Have I any celebs reaching out since launching your art on Terra Virtua, wanting to purchase work featuring them? Brilliant, Mrs. Onion Brain. Yes, I have. I've had a guy in London who produces films, and his new film is called Rise of the Foot Soldier 4. And there's a Mr. Vinnie Jones on that film. And the red carpet's 3rd of September. So that's going to be a work in progress in Q4 this year. The beauty with heroes and villains is I think Vinnie Jones himself would make a perfect one. And those of you that have watched Rise of the Foot Soldier 1, 2, 3, it doesn't take itself that seriously, but this 4th one is going to be something else. So thanks for the question, Mrs. Onion Brain. Watch this space with Vinnie. Oh, great question. Saja, how do you make sure your art represents the celebrity from an authentic, objective viewpoint, or do I embrace bias in art? Brilliant question. Fantastic question. Here's the barometer. With the pop art, which is the 4 squares called the disruptives, that's all about capturing the person at their prime. Now, with Mike Tyson, it's not physical prime, it's mental prime, because Mike's in a much better place now. So Branson, he's at his prime. I didn't want to show Branson. Lewis Hamilton, the top of his game. So they're the 3 kind of literal disruptives. Now, the collage stuff, when I'm doing Iron Man at the car wash or Damien Spider-Man that you're going to see dropped, they're capturing that person at the most vulnerable. So the disruptive 4 square, top of the game in the prime. The collage is that subject matter at the most vulnerable. That's a really, really, really good question. So I can't bias it. I have to research, take that dream image that we think represents them. Sometimes they give the image themselves. Sometimes we got to look into the law of appropriation. We have to change it enough to make it part of a recognized collection, so it's honored in a very authentic way. But that's a fantastic question, Sadja. Thank you. Brilliant. Oh, Spider-Man, that's a story. Do you want the real story behind this one, Chris? This is a cracker. Spider-Man was when I was in my art studio and I was painting prolifically. I had about 36 canvases on every space on my wall. I had no space left to paint. I wasn't eating right. I wasn't ventilating my apartment right because it was full of air conditioning back in August 2014. And I had 3 paintings on the go. I wasn't ventilating and I actually collapsed. And every Thursday, my old security guard in the building called Damien from Sri Lanka, he would knock on the door to see how I was, and he'd offer me a masala chai or a disco tea, as they call it in Dubai, in the spice souk, bit of cardamom, bit of rainbow milk, you can't beat it. And he came in, I woke up with him at my feet, and he brought me round after I collapsed on the floor. So guess what we did? I honoured him as a hero and villain by buying his shirt off him that you see, and on his shoulder as you look, it's got the Watchman. And the Watchman is a title of the Batman Spider-Man combo Marvel comic that you see in the center. So this used the real comic, it used Damien's real shirt. I painted the web on it with the $2 signs. But if you look front center, you've got the left of my old credit card and the right of my old credit card, which is a very famous global bank that was originally based in Hong Kong and Shanghai. I'll let you work it out for yourselves. And they're opposite their Safa Park in Dubai. So you know who the bank is. But this hero and villains one for me was that mask had fallen off me. I was vulnerable. I was painting. And if he hadn't walked in at that time, my apartment could have caught fire, the flames, the open flames. But here's the funny thing. The honest vulnerability to this story is whenever I walk past security in my building, which for those of you in Dubai was Al Thuraya building, next to Messiah Centre, above Pet Zone Pet Shop. When I used to walk in there at night, there'd be a sign on the table and chair, I am not at my desk, call me on 050, and he'd leave his number. Next morning, you come down from the lift, go to work, he's got the sign on, I'm not at my desk, call me at this number. So he'd only be at his desk between like 11 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. So I said to him, mate, are you security by day, but Spider-Man by night? Are you swinging through the streets of Dubai, saving the world? I said, I'm going to do a piece of art by you, and I'm going to call it Sri Lankan Spider-Man, because Damien, as one of the heroes and villains, used to send 85% of his salary home to his family every 3 months. He lived in a tiny room, smaller than the room behind me, and he kept his little cat, and he was proud about growing his plants, and I'm going to get really emotional in a minute. Whew. So Damien, yeah, this one's for him, right? And it really touched me that if it wasn't for him swinging by that time, I might not be here. So damn right he was a hero and the villain. And this physical artwork is now showcased on the QE2 at Port Rashid at the Theatre by QE2 as you go along past the beautiful original 1969 theatre on the QE2. You can see Sri Lankan Spider-Man in its real physical form. That doesn't mean much to most people watching this, but you can be one of 10 people to snag this NFT that gives gratitude for people that we often ignore. And how many of us are busy running past that security guard? Yeah, mate, whatever. You're just there doing your job. Not interested. You can't do anything for me. Move on. Well, guess what? My perception changed rapidly, and it humbled me, and I needed humbling. Oh, here's a question. What's my plan for future art? Can I reveal? Great question. I'm happy to share, Ray Jones. Thanks for the question, mate. I would say my current work, which is my 13th collection, Heroes and Villains being my 4th. So my 13th work is called Tokenomics, and it celebrates the ups and downs of the NFT and crypto world. The rug pulls, the green candlesticks, the red candlesticks, and all the things that go with it. I'm working on that this year. I've got a couple of private commissions. The one behind me is for the British Heart Foundation and a footballer called Glenn Hoddle. He's a patron for the British Heart Foundation, and he overcame a heart attack 3 years ago. That's that one. So that's kind of what's on right now in terms of my next body of work, alongside obviously these NFTs and the stories that I'm so delighted and honored to share with people. And the questions are what make this, you know, Chris. I'm really, really pleased to see these questions pop up unscripted, and it makes for such an authentic message. And I just have to say, you know, the job that Terra Virtue have done in bringing these to life, particularly with the backdrop of stories, is it shivers down my spine, mate, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it is a proper collaboration in the sense that we have a lot of back and forth, I know, because we've been very much involved together, Jim, with the people at Terra Virtua who are putting together ideas and creatives for how to bring your work to life as NFTs. And I mean, that's one of the beautiful things. An NFT can be animated. It can be, you know, include video and audio, and with something as visceral as your work, that's an extra dimension that it really benefits from.
Oh, and you know what? For the record, I've had no contact with the design team at Terra Virtua, and nor should I, because art's subjective. It's down to your personal interpretation. It can be an eye roll, a face palm, or trigger something from your childhood, or your first date, or your last date, or whatever it might be. And it's that authentic tweak that when I see that, particularly with the early collage stuff, when I see that dollar sign going on, pretty much exactly as I painted it, and at the same speed. I do not take my time when I'm doing painting. How long does it take you to paint? All right, some of them Virgin shot into space honoring Branson and his Virgin Galactics here. That took 31 days to do, and it started with a t-shirt that I bought from Mercato, and it also moved on to the Uranus Arabia cardboard box sign at the bottom third that has the art of growing in it. It has the world on it from an ex-golf colleague of mine that said, "Great luck in your future adventures." He was the only one that sent me a Happy New Career card.
What's a golf colleague?
So when I worked at the golf club, one of the head pros said, "We're going to miss you. You got great energy. Good luck." And I cut that card out, and you can see where the spaceship's taken up from out of this NFT. That's his good luck for the future card. And every time I see him, which is pretty much every winter in Dubai, I shake his hand and went, and his name's Brian Smith with a Y. And I went, "Mate, I've still got that card. It's now on the QE2 at the theatre on a Branson artwork." Also with this artwork is not only Branson's signed poster of Virgin Galactics. This artwork was put together in 2014. 7 years later, he's finally getting close to Virgin Galactics being a reality. And what I've got up my sleeve, which I'll share, a guy called Per Vimmer, a Danish philanthropist, he was given a bet that he'd never climb Mount Everest. He'd never get to the top of Mount Everest. He said, "I'll do it." So guess what? He skydived onto the top of it and he won the bet. And he's also one of the very first astronauts to buy a seat, a $250,000 one, on Mr. Branson's Virgin Galactic. So Virgin shot into space is all about entrepreneurs taking that risk, moving forward. And the world is a colourful place, that dangling global sphere there with all colours. That's about tolerance. It's about acceptance. That is so much more relevant now in rainbow terms than it was 7, 8 years ago when I first put this together. So 32 days to do that. And I'd add other bits to it. And the faces next to Branson reminded me of a childhood cartoon I used to watch called The Space Sentinels. And it was like these proper little characters were to the moon, let's dream, anything's possible. And I believe that ethos and spirit is needed in society. You don't need to fly to space to reach to the moon. You can look the person that's serving you or that you're serving in the eye from the heart And guess what? That'll put them into space without you having to spend $250,000 on a flight.
Yeah.
So great question, Ray. Thank you for that, mate.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because Richard Branson, this man that's kind of always reached for the stars, and you know, he gets the backlash. He gets people who ridicule him, who says he can't do stuff, who laugh at his ambition, and that kind of sums up a lot of the reaction to NFTs and the NFT space at the moment.
Oh, huge. But I've lived with that reaction for 8 years. Painting, art, not my thing, mate. But then eventually you'll get the odd proper planets aligning, and I do use the spatial metaverse example. The planets align with some of the people I'm connecting with at the moment, largely with the right energy and the right attitude that get it. And as long as there's one person that gets it at the start, however long ago that is, it doesn't matter. And it spreads, and they'll go, yeah, that pop art stuff, it's okay, but can you do one of my pet chihuahua? Can you do one of my sports car? Can you do one for me and my missus getting engaged? Because I want 9 pictures. And I've delivered private commissions on personal bespoke art that can one day become their NFT as well. So it's all about that, not proving people wrong, but getting on and focusing on the 2 types of people in your life. And you can focus on either the radiators that make you feel great and warm, or you can focus on the drains. You spend time with these drains and you leave and you're like, phew, I feel like I've been run over by a bus and I need to lie down. I used to get that so much in corporate because I was so excited and high vibe energy. They'd be like, how many coffees have you had? And are you like this all the time? Well, no, not all the time, but I don't want to lose that childlike enthusiasm. So that's part of my currency as well. So I think that the heroes and the villains in each and every one of us, and the people around your community, for those that are watching, cherish the ones that make you feel like a hero, and don't guilt you into feeling like a villain because you're following your life's calling or passion, or you're helping others do theirs.
And of course, that piece of that artwork, Virgin Shot into Space, is one of the pricier ones that's dropping today at $1,000. But it is so unique and such a beautiful piece, Jim.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
we couldn't resist giving Branson crypto eyes, and we couldn't resist sending him to the moon. It's also got an envelope from a very rare space satellite mission that had the autographs of the original astronauts on there. So I'm not going to say any more about that. You can look into that. But yeah, I'm absolutely overjoyed that this has made it onto this drop, Chris.
Great. Okay. Well, the latest news I've got for you is that these pieces should all be live now on the Terra Virtual Marketplace. So if you want to go and have a look while you're watching, please flip over there. In the meantime, we've got 8 minutes remaining, Jim. What I'd like to do very quickly is just look at some of the other artworks. If you could just give us a top line, some of the context behind them, that would be really helpful.
Sure. Yeah.
So we've spoken about Branson, the Spider-Man, Lewis Hamilton, Tyson, Virgin Shot into Space. Actually, I think we've covered them all, haven't we?
Well, from the 6, I think it's important for collectors to understand that heroes and villains in both sides of the coin, right? And you decide who the hero and villain is, or what percentage of hero and villain is within each person. Friends of mine love being the pantomime baddie. They love being the guy watching a game show and they just miss out on the top prize and they're like, yes! Where most of the room's like, oh, they just missed it. That's so sad. And, you know, there's heroes and villains in all of us. So from the dichotomy of both sides of that coin, I'd encourage you to look at the 3 painted artworks that are the collage. Look deeper into the stories behind that. Every facet in those paintings means something. And also look at the 3 pop arts, the Lewis, the Tyson, the Branson, and have a look at the little additions that the TV team have added to this. Look at the checkered flag with Lewis.
Yeah.
You know, when's it time to hang the steering wheel up, as it were? And with Spider-Man itself, the timing of these 6 people is so relevant. And I mean that for the unsung hero. I mean the guy on the garage forecourt. I mean the security guards working in society at the moment, in whatever part of the world, that they're in. And I mean it for Branson and his quest, and any gazillionaire that's working on the quest to better mankind. Is that money spent elsewhere? It depends if you're one of the people waiting or are employed by Virgin Galactic. It depends if you're on the seat. It depends if you like Star Trek as a kid. But one thing's for sure, I just encourage you to explore both sides of the NFT coin. And this is why, for the first time on any platform, we are looking at dollars and crypto. Yes, you can use your credit card to buy dollar purchase that's recorded on the blockchain to start collecting. You can start collecting from $100 up to the $1,000, up to some of the earlier work that we dropped that's still out there with Trump and Jordan Belfont, and you're looking at $2,500. And what happens then to those NFTs? Well, let's see. Let's see the secondary market. Let's see what happens at the start. But I think particularly now that crypto is becoming more bullish in the last 3 or 4 days, and normal services being resumed, I'd encourage those that are, have the Ethereum holding. You could be doing a lot worse than looking at the heroes and villains. And in essence, I think these 6 have been, between your team, Chris, and yourself, the input, the selection process. We don't just come up with the names and say, stick them on and see how they go. There is a thread to all 6 of these. And I'd be really interested for feedback as and when people get their own understanding of what these levels of society mean to them, both on the ground and on other planets, right?
Great stuff, Jim. Listen, that's all we got time for. And I'd like to say thanks very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for giving me free reign again. No brief. The questions were absolutely fantastic. And sincerely thanks to everyone at TV, from the community, and feel free to DM me anytime. More than happy to answer any questions.
Cheers, Jim. Right, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. You heard the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jim Wheat, and the new Heroes and Villains collection. So head on over now to Terra Virtua Marketplace, snap up those NFTs because they're going to go quick. Smash that like button down below. If you're on Twitch, if you're not, get on it. Head over, subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe to our Twitter, and there's loads of other stuff on the marketplace, from collectibles to comics. Later this month, we'll be dropping Nick Percival's exclusive Bloodlines and a wealth of other things that I'm sure you're going to love. So stay NFT, stay Terra Virtua. Chris out.